board meeting. Meeting is live streamed youtube.com/Camden, or if you want to participate on Zoom, you may do so by going to the webpage and clicking on the Zoom link, and we will do our best to recognize you if you have, if you'd like to add something to the discussion. Start off with public comment on non-agenda items. Seeing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda, which consists of two items. Confirmation of new library trustee Will Daly of Camden. And the second item is approval of renewal of victualler and lodging licenses for 40 Paper, Blackberry Inn, Camden Deli, Camden Windward House, Captain Swift Inn at Camden Place, Limestone Court Building, and Timbercliff Cottage Inn.
And Quarry.
Where?
It's on the select board agenda that is listed online.
Okay.
And Quarry Hill Anderson Inn.
Quarry Hill Anderson.
Is that not in the other copy intentionally, or?
I don't have it on the online one either. I'm looking right at it.
If you look at the consent agenda,
Oh, you're right. Yep.
Was there information in the packet about it?
I don't see it on the packet list. What?
It's right in the memorandum for the consent agenda, and it does have that.
I don't have any concerns with it.
Any concerns or questions or?
well, I do have a question. Is it going to be an issue that is not going to get approved in this meeting? It is on the consent agenda in the part, but it is not included in the items that will get signed off. So will that harm that business in any way that this moves on to next week?
Yeah, it's not included in the licenses that are on for us to sign.
Yeah, I would assume if it's, because it's not in the version I have either, so it might have been taken off if they haven't had an inspection or something like that.
So let's continue with without the inclusion of the Anderson Inn.
I just got a message that there's no sound on YouTube.
So the recommendation is to adopt the consent agenda.
I'm not sure which agenda that would be to adopt.
Well, the one without the Quarry Hill on it. We'll go with the one that we have the documentation for.
Why don't we just remove all of the, for the sake of clarity, we'll remove all from, Holly says her YouTube does have sound, so that's great news. We'll just remove all of them from the consent agenda and just make it a motion for the ones that
That are in the list.
because we've already discussed it really too much for it to be
Yeah.
a consent thing anyway. So I would move that we approve the licenses for the businesses listed by Susan.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, excellent. All right, moving right along. Select board reports. Who's got something to report?
A little item of interest. Have you seen the disruption disruption is probably not the word anybody would want me to use. The digging at the transfer station. The YMCA sewer line goes across transfer station property from years and years ago, and that also includes going across the former quarry, which has now been partially filled in. So that's probably the longest private sewer lateral anywhere in multiple towns. And it's been a little bit of a crisis, realizing that it was sagging a bunch, but just kind of interesting to think about the fact that if you're at the Y and you flush the toilet, it goes through a pipe that goes all the way underneath where you're recycling out that road, and then makes it to, hooks up with the Camden system, goes
On
down
Union Street,
on Lime Rock Street,
on Lime Rock.
and then goes down, eventually makes it to past Bayview Street and stuff, and then down to the Bayview Street pump station, and then gets pumped up to the treatment plant. So that will continue doing that. That line is being replaced. It probably will need to be replaced again in another 20 years or so, but that's what the digging is all about there. That's it for me.
Excellent. Thank you.
I don't.
Anything
You're
you'd
done?
like to add, Ken?
No.
Well, one question back on the approval of the consent agenda, which we did not do, right? Where does that leave the library trustee?
Oh, that's a really great
Oh,
point. I
Well,
move that we approve library trust, Will Daly as a library trustee as recommended by the rest of the Board of Trustees. They have a rigorous process that they go through, and it looks like he's well qualified, and
yeah,
I would move that we approve him.
have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Excellent. I know Will Daly. He'll be an extraordinary addition to the library Board of Trustees. He's a remarkable person.
Oh.
Yeah. Any other select board reports?
None.
All right. We are zooming through it.
All right.
Time for you.
So I'll go through my updates. So with fire and rescue, the fire department received a $50,000 sustainability grant from the main office of EMS, and it can be used to purchase supplemental equipment or provide education for employees. So the primary purpose of these funds is to pay for paramedic education programs. And we have 2 current employees that are in the selection process for paramedic school. The department's biennial inspection by the Maine Department of Labor for SHAPE enrollment is scheduled for June 11th. So this is a program that our fire department has participated in since 2010. They have also met with members of the Hope Fire Department to assist with implementation of Hope's first responder program. So Hope is anticipating that they'll be ready to first respond to EMS calls by July 1st. And this has a real potential to reduce incident response times in Hope, and it's just a good collaboration between the communities, and it's great to see this is finally coming to fruition. So with Public Works, Lake Beach, there's work to repair the storm damage that the seawall sustained in the January 2024 storms, and that's finished. There is some work that's still left to do, so paving the lower sidewalk so it connects to the replacement stairs that were installed 2 years ago. So this is the set of aluminum stairs that provide the primary access to the beach, and those can be lifted up and put back down. So when there's like a storm that we know is imminent and could cause damage, it's just a much better solution than the granite steps that we had there that kept getting undermined and moved around. So there's some, larger boulders that we're put in this area that should make it last a little bit longer and a little bit more resilient. In terms of the Rawson Avenue Bridge, construction is beginning on that project soon. There's going to be a pre-construction meeting next week. There's still one utility pole to move, which is trickier than it seems because you have to go through the whole process with every utility that's on every single pole. So that project is moving along. And I think a lot of people might have noticed that around Seabright Dam, there was some disturbance of the path there because that's the only access when we need to do work on the Seabright Dam. And we were starting and finishing some work on that dam that was recommended by Kleinschmidt, our dam engineer, out of our most recent inspection report. So it's dealing with some exposed rebar and some resurfacing that needed to happen. The whole Public Works and wastewater departments are going to be in Skowhegan on Thursday. They're going to be attending the American Public Works 32nd Annual Highway Congress. It's an equipment and trade show, and it offers educational exhibits. There are always vendors there, and it's a really good opportunity for them to try out equipment and also network with colleagues and get some, sort of best practice and different sort of industry changes that are happening. So it's going on at the Skowhegan Fairgrounds. They hold the state snowplow rodeo championship, as well as the mini excavator and backhoe skills contest. I don't know if any of our folks are going to be involved in any of that, but that's just part of the fun that they have. Unfortunately, they invited me to come, but unfortunately I couldn't make it. But it sounds like a real blast.
Is this open to the public, or do you have to be invited?
It costs like $10 to go, and anyone could go.
Wow.
So anyway,
Backhoe rodeo?
I think it's great that they're all going. It's good, affordable professional development, but just kind of putting it out there that our entire Public Works department will be away at that time. So
So hold on, what happens if
we'll be okay. I mean, if anything like really serious happens, it'll be okay. But yes, that's going on Thursday. So with the Snow Bowl and Parks and Recreation, work is beginning to install the rope tow for the tubing hill, which is going to happen or get underway next week. So it involves cement footings for the pulley system and motor at the top and an anchor at the bottom. And the rope tow is going to be able to pull both tubes and riders up to the top. And this is great because, the tubing hill, ever since it's come back, everybody's really excited about it. And it's been really popular. And I'm sure with the rope tow, it'll be even more popular.
How do they get up now? Isn't there
It's
one of those
stairs.
little
It's
just
the way we
stairs.
always did.
Yeah,
Like everybody, I don't understand it. It's like you don't have to.
Rope tows are
Everybody used
hard.
to hike up the mountain to learn to ski.
Just not as gritty anymore.
Everybody's got it
yes.
too easy now. This is what's killing our
easy.
kids.
I have a magic carpet.
And OSI, the Outdoor Sporting Institute, who's done the trail component of the master planning that we're working on, they've begun flagging the new hiking and mountain biking trails on Ragged Mountain. And so while this is going on, or while the flags are up there, we're asking the public to please not disturb or move the flags, because this is eventually they're eventually going to be removed. And we're in the process of getting ready to apply for a grant or a series of grants with both the state of Maine and the federal government to move forward with building some of those trails. So a part of it was the Maine Trails Bond. Do you remember what the exact name of that program was?
Main Trails Bond.
Oh, okay, got it right. I thought it had a less obvious name than that. But anyway, Maine Trails Bond funding is going to start. They're going to start to open that program. And that combined with funding from the EDA through the Northern Border Regional Commission could make a lot of progress towards, some of the trail planning that was done as part of OSI's work and the master plan that we got a lot of public input for, which is pretty exciting. Sorry, Allison has a.
Sorry, I was like, oh shoot, no, I shouldn't raise my hand now. But the master plan, is that the thing that we voted on? And was that $60,000 thing, or was that what we approved?
So the master plan, we got the grant
And a
from
grant.
Maine Outdoor Recreation for that.
When did that get complete? When was that completed?
The grant,
Oh, the master plan.
the
or-
master plan is not completed. We're still
Can
going
we-
through it.
I guess sometimes it feels like some of the studies that are done for the town, one of them is the Inner Harbor Resiliency Study, and maybe this one, it feels like they're getting presented in other places, and that's great for public input and all of that. But could we sometimes have it come back to the select board?
This
I
one
would
in
love, like, even
particular.
the Inner Harbor Resiliency Study, and it feels like some of that stuff is getting presented to the public and it's not coming back to us, and it's just, not that we have to try to change it or anything, but it would be nice to know what comes out of these things.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah, I just want to follow up on so who's writing the master plan? Is that OSI or is that, what's the other group?
It's SE Group.
SE.
Yeah, so they're doing
Okay.
they're doing the entire master plan. OSI is just focused on the
That
trails.
work. Okay,
So
so when
the
you
trails
refer to
feed
the
in.
master plan, that's SI's work. I mean, SE's work.
SE Group's kind of like the main
Yep.
contractor that's going to bring it all together, and OSI is just specializing in the trails.
Trails.
Yeah.
I'd love to just get a brief update at a select board meeting at some point to know kind of where we are, and so that, we can do a good job too, making sure that anybody else in the community that wants to be a part of it. I just know that I wouldn't be able to answer any questions about that right now.
And it might, we just got sort of an overview of and it was a really interesting overview from Steve from OSI, and he's getting support from a gentleman named Max from Mount Abram, who's sort of their head trail builder there. And Mount Abram, they're mostly focused on Mount Abram, but they've got this incredible expertise where they're starting to kind of lend their folks out to other projects across the state. And it was really interesting to hear what they had to say about trails here. They were both just so excited about the potential. And they were saying, we've got and I'm not a mountain biker, so I don't know about this, but they were saying that we have some of the best potential for granite slab mountain biking with the best views of anywhere aside from like British Columbia, I think that they were saying. So I guess that's like a
Slab mountain
huge
biking.
granite slab mountain bike where they're riding directly on granite
Exposed
ledge.
pieces
Which is
of
what we really
ledge
don't
and-
want at the snowball, right? Because we want it to all be covered with.
No, not for this, I guess. I guess this is like a
So
important
we take
thing.
advantage of the places that are already.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. We're not going to
Exposed
be like
granite ledge.
exposing ledge that's not.
People are
Scraping
always
off
telling
the
me
dirt.
that's a problem. with them.
Yeah, but they did talk about some rock trails that could be built, like technical rock trails. So it's very interesting. I think that,
All the more reason that maybe just once in
Exactly.
a while, the interesting, fun stuff could get shared with the select
yeah,
board too.
I think that this is interesting, fun thing that would be great to share with all of you at this point in time. And then, when SE Group's done with, sort of the first draft of the master plan, we can come back to the select board with that too, of course.
Field trip.
I feel like all the really difficult and unpleasant stuff comes to us. And then all the other interesting sort of
Fun stuff.
exciting planning stuff is presented elsewhere.
All right, so plans for paving the skate park are still underway, and we're hoping to be able to do that next week, weather permitting. It's been delayed recently due to all the rain that we've been seeing. So new elements and features have been ordered, and we're targeting the last weekend in June for a volunteer day to put the skate park back together. And if there are any community members out there who are interested in getting involved, please reach out to Jeff and Grace. You can call them on their office number or send them an email at info@camdenparksandrec.com.
And that's the date is the
So they haven't,
28th.
They haven't said it yet.
yeah, they're
Is that what you're looking at?
hoping that weekend. Again, I guess
Okay.
it'll all be weather permitting again.
Okay.
And in the town office, just wanted to give everyone the heads up that the last day for in-person absentee voting, so when you can actually come into the town office, get your ballot and vote, is Thursday, June 5th at 3:30 p.m. So special circumstances to extend absentee voting must be made and approved by the Register of Voters. Polls are going to be open on June 10th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. At the Public Safety Building on Washington Street. So voter registration and changes can be made in person prior to June 10th or in person at the polls on the day of the election. And the town office is going to be closed for business on June 10th because staff will be working at the polls. And also just wanted to put out that we are seeking 1 or 2 more community volunteers to work the polls on Tuesday, June 10th for both day shifts, which include 8 a.m. to noon, as well as noon to 4 p.m. So anybody out there who might be interested in working at the polls, please stop into the clerk's office, or you can call Katrina at the town office on our number to sign up, on our office number to sign up. So the conversion of Chickadee license plates to the new Pine Tree plates is continuing, and that's for both new vehicles and renewal registrations. So if we have owners who've reserved a custom vanity plate or have a lower number plate with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, we'd like to remind you to bring the plates and must bring the plates that come in the mail. And so the plates are going to come in the mail and the letter that comes with it to the town office to register that new plate. So town staff cannot look up your plate number to renew your registration. There's no database of license plates and registrations that we have access to. When you come in with your information, that's what they rely on to renew everything. So please bring a copy of your current or expired registration or know your plate number when you stop in to renew. So details about the state's new license plates and how to reserve a custom pine tree plate can be found on the town's website, and that's in the news section on the homepage. And friends are invited to a memorial celebration of life for Marlene Libby, which is going to happen on Friday, June 20th at the Snow Bowl. So the event's going to begin at 1 p.m. and there's going to be a brief memorial that will honor Marlene's wish to also hold a chicken barbecue potluck for friends and family. So everybody is invited to bring a dish to share if you would like to. So in the harbor master has placed 4 new 2-ton granite stones holding the east and west channel markers in place. So the southern line has also been shifted to be in line with the town ordinance at the request of the harbor committee. The channel has also been narrowed from 100 feet to 75 feet, also at the committee's request. These changes necessitate the relocation of 6 moorings, some from one side of the channel to the other. So that's just something to be aware of. The floors of the public restroom have been cleaned, sanded, and recoated with epoxy paint, and all the walls have been refreshed. And Camden artist Colin Page has painted scenic murals in both the men's and women's restrooms. We're going to be installing new electric hand dryers, soap dispensers, and mirrors to prepare for the busy summer season. And also to head off any potential vandalism. Only the front of each of the restrooms are going to be open after 10 p.m. So you'll still be able to use the bathrooms. It's just going to be the front. So the police department have completed in-person de-escalation and duty to intervene training. It's the responsibility of an officer to intervene when another officer is violating a person's constitutional rights. And this training was through Dirigo Safety and paid for by grants. And the department purchased and took delivery of the new gas hybrid cruiser today. So we have also been fielding questions about the expanded paid parking program in recent weeks, and there's a few things that we can share at the early date that we're at with it. So the program is expected to go live at the end of July at the earliest. All the equipment has been ordered and installation work is going to begin later this month. Information on how Camden residents will sign up for the 2 hours of daily free parking is going to be published soon once we have a chance to test the software and figure out how it's going to work. And to start, residents are going to opt in by signing up their vehicle or vehicles online, and we'll cross-check the registration to make sure it's a Camden registered vehicle. We're not going to issue stickers or placards. The Camden Police and Parking Enforcement, once we get this once people register, will have access to the information so that they're able to track the registered plates. And residents are going to start with a session by visiting the nearby kiosk or doing the text to pay and selecting the time frame. So time extensions can be made via text for convenience. And some of these details are going to be subject to change once we have a better idea of the software and we have a chance to test it and troubleshoot it and make any corrections with the software company. And those are my, those aren't my only updates. So 2-hour parking is in effect where it's posted around town, and the public landing is still paid parking. And there's one kiosk that's not currently working, but the one that is working has details on it. And those will also both be replaced as a result of the expanded program. So in the Planning and Codes Office, the short-term rental program has seen a total of 60 licenses issued to date. Last month, there were a total of 27. And of the 60, 33 are commercial, 23 are residential, and 4 are seasonal. There are 38 licenses pending, and they're awaiting owner or staff action, and that includes 14 residential, 19 commercial, and 5 more seasonal applications. And to date, 66 life safety inspections have been conducted as part of that program, and there are 73 identified properties that are yet to be registered. And those are my updates.
Wow,
Thank you.
thank
You're
you.
welcome.
That's a lot of good stuff. Wow. Okay. Discussion items. Update on Gould Street and Molyneux Road projects.
So the majority of this is in the memo, but for the folks at home, because I think that this is just as much to inform everybody about where we're at with these projects, I will read some of the major points about where we are at with those. So for the Molyneux Road sewer extension to Mountainside, the shop drawings are currently being completed. So we have, as you know, a contractor, and they're mobilizing for the project. So the town's currently surveying residents on Molyneux Road and their septic systems to figure out which ones are at the end of their usable life and should either be replaced or they immediately should be connecting into sewer. Of course, there are going to be folks who've recently either replaced their septic systems or have done some work on them. For those folks, we're not asking them to connect in the sewer. We're advising that they wait until it's at the end of its usable life and then they can connect into the sewer system. There's going to be a stub for them to do so in the future if they're not able to or not going to do it at this point. Construction's going to begin first at the pump station at Mountainside, and that's going to take approximately 2 to 3 weeks. So, we're waiting on submittals from the contractor to get going with this part of the work. So, it'll likely be, once the pump station is installed at Mountainside, as soon as they get onto Molyneux, it'll probably be most of the summer that they're working on that. Gould Street is another fairly significant project that's going on this summer. So designs for improvements to the roadway are complete, and this includes upgrading the stormwater system and also installing sidewalks and a crosswalk. And the plans are in the packet, so if you have any interest in what that's going to look like, you can look at the next couple of pages. So the Public Works Department hosted a meeting on May 22nd with Gould Street residents to discuss the project. And the new sidewalk is going to begin at the bottom of Gould Street, heading up towards Route 52 and Mountain Street. And it's going to be on the left side until we get to the intersection with Branch Street. And then there's going to be a crosswalk, and it'll direct pedestrians to the other side of the street, and the sidewalk will continue up the hill there. So that'll be...
Or Mount Batty.
Sorry, what's that?
Branch or Mount Batty?
Branch Street intersection.
Okay.
And construction's slated to begin at the end of this week, and that's all weather dependent. And that's another project that's going to take the entire summer to complete. And then there'll be a little bit of work, mostly on resurfacing, that is finalized next summer. And those are the Molyneux Road, Gould Street updates.
Excellent. Yeah, they've been out in force on Gould Street. I see that. That'll be delightful.
Yes.
Really
Yeah.
nice. And the
As a
sidewalk-
general question, perhaps it's for Public Works, but how do we decide where to extend our sidewalks? I mean, there are so many streets that don't have sidewalks. Is Gould Street, how did it rise to the top?
So really, I think it was led by the stormwater issues, but in addition, it's a real cut through from, Route 52 to 105. And, it's just a real opportunity to rebuild the stormwater system and address some of the pedestrian safety issues from that being such a high speed cut through at the same time. And so that's why usually it's kind of led by the subsurface infrastructure
Mhm.
particularly the sewer, but that was causing so many washouts. It really, and the whole system is pretty much completely deteriorated there, that was why it kind of rose to the top.
Yes, it is everybody's shortcut.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you use that road at all, you know that right there outside of McGonagall Market, there's quite a dip in the road, so that'll be a nice improvement to have
Yes.
that brought
Yeah, are
back
you
into.
here for any of the, there was quite a group of Gould Street residents that probably of all the issues that I've received emails about in town, probably the number, if you're tallying like Gould Street, there'd be a lot of tallies next
Yeah.
to Gould Street. The other thing that is for the Pathways Committee has identified some in the past, that if you live on Mountain Street and trying to walk to school and choosing which side street
Street
to
come
to
down,
cross
yeah.
down on, and then trying to find, you want to choose one where there is a crosswalk, but there aren't many crosswalks. And so but walking down Gould Street hasn't been very
Right.
safe to tell your kids to do that and then use the the crosswalk across Washington Street there. So this will help some of the Mountain Street to Washington and then Knowlton Street connectivity.
And reinstating
And
that stop
that-
sign was a big
Yeah.
plus too. When that was gone for a while, that was a little,
Well,
Yeah.
maybe in the long term, that isn't necessarily the best traffic calming
no.
measure.
but-
It was what they settled for because the town wouldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
But I know there was some talk about looking at, okay, well, maybe that stop sign in the long term isn't necessary if you can slow
Mhm,
the traffic down enough
mhm.
with this, the other method of having a sidewalk
Yeah.
and slowing the travel lane, some.
So will the sidewalk go all the way up to Mountain Street?
Yes, yep. And that reminds me, I just wanted to acknowledge, a group of Mountain Street residents submitted a petition. They want like a complete rebuild of Mountain Street from, where the intersection with Route 1, pretty much all throughout the village, like they're requesting rebuilding sewer, stormwater, redoing all the sidewalks, and then resurfacing. And, I appreciate what they're saying. They're correct about all of it. The stormwater system there is particularly decayed and it causes problems. I understand that they have a lot of difficulty with high speeds because it is a
Yeah.
very wide, flat, straight area. So, part of this Gould Street project is better connectivity between 105 and Mountain Street. And on Thursday of last week, the new Region 2 planner, so Region 2 is our MDOT region, and we have a new planner for our region. So he came to Camden, and Shenley and I walked with him to all the recent projects that we completed with MDOT, as well as we walked basically the whole length of Elm Street. So he could see the difficulty with the sidewalk there and, some of the intersections there. So that was really helpful to have him come, and he also was there to walk that stretch of Route 52, or sorry, Mountain Street with us. So, we're going to be going to MDOT about some sort of MPI project. So that's the program where MDOT will fund, anywhere from 50 to 80% of a project where it's a state road, in partnership with the municipality to address problems like the, stormwater system, resurfacing, and then they'll help with, the pedestrian facilities along that stretch of road. So
So if that's something that can be put into the pipeline, would it be 2 or 3 years out? I mean, I know that these things require a lot of lead time and planning.
I would say, to be realistic,
Yeah.
probably like 4 years out.
4 years out. Yeah.
So, we totally agree with, and we hear the residents, it's, like you said, these projects have a long
Yeah.
lead time, and it takes a lot of planning and coordination. So it's definitely something that we're aware of, and we agree with them, and we need to start kind of getting that going.
Excellent.
I mean, I think a lot of it is just the immediate concern of trying to slow people
Oh
down
my God,
too.
it's
And
unbelievable.
that maybe there are, what do they call them, experimental measures or just some, requests we can make to DOT to do, support some things in the short term. I think a while back, we had talked about even just making a request to lower speed limits. And the select board very much has the power to initiate that process. They've recently kind of clarified that process, and we can ask DOT to look at it and consider reducing the speed limit. That's not the only way, but High Street is 25, and Mountain Street and Mechanic Street are 30 and 35, and there's, what's the difference between those streets in terms
Yeah.
of purpose?
And that's not observed. I know.
No, none of it is
living on
observed,
that
but it
corner.
even just sends a signal.
It's
Oh, you can
intense.
go a little
Yeah.
faster on this road than on
Yeah,
this road, but
Yeah.
I'd love to see
they
that
go a
on an
lot
agenda
faster.
at some point, because DOT won't do it unless the town says they want it, because they don't want to get involved in this,
Right,
he said, she said, back and forth.
right. All right, excellent. Action items. So the first item is the Sagamore Farm solar buyout.
So this is something that we've discussed a few times, and at the last meeting, there seemed to be consensus that there was a level of comfort moving forward with the buyout. So just to remind everyone, we entered into a power purchase agreement with Revision Investments LLC in 2017. And that provided us with an opportunity to buy out of the PPA so that the town owns the solar array that's sitting at Sagamore Farm outright. And the purchase price is a little over $200,000. And, as a result of it not being owned by Revision and us purchasing the power through that arrangement, we're going to be saving about $30,000 a year. And we've recommended to fund that through the, the Energy Efficiency Reserve. It might not be the right name for it.
Conservation Reserve Fund?
Energy Conservation Reserve Fund.
Pretty close, Audra. Pretty good.
Yes, I'm almost there. So there was one small point to this that Bill mentioned, which is just having an inspection of the panels prior to finalizing the agreement. And, it shouldn't be a problem. They're in pretty good condition from.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So we are, so would you recommend us waiting for that inspection before we finalize the agreement?
No, I would
No.
just say make the buyout contingent on,
Is
the
there language
inspection.
already in the,
Yes, there is.
yeah,
Well, I would move that we approve the buyout of the Sagamore Farm solar array from Revision for $203,558 to be paid for from the Energy Conservation Reserve Fund, contingent on that inspection.
can I have a second?
I would second.
Okay, any discussion? Yes.
I don't know about the contingent part, because every inspection always turns up something. So what is the mechanism for, what would cause it to be kicked back to us again, or?
I would say, it'd be something like a significant malfunctioning of, the equipment or panels. I think it would be, something like that where we would want to go back to Revision and, speak to them about the buyout price. Like if we find it's
Revision does,
significantly less efficient than
who's going
what
to
we
do this
understand it to
inspection?
be, we would have to hire a
An independent
qualified,
person to evaluate the efficiency
yes.
of the panels,
They would have to
as
go and,
opposed to, in case we're not getting accurate information from revision?
I mean, I think having a
I don't want to
third-party
do
inspection is maybe not a bad idea.
that. I
Yeah, I
just,
don't know what can
How
go
much is-
wrong with solar panels, but I'm sure there are other people out there in the world who do. And it would be good to know if there are contingencies on whatever you're buying for that amount of price. If there are some things, I don't know, maybe they're cracked.
does
I don't
anybody
know.
else ever do this? Or I'm just curious how much it costs, or
I don't
is,
know.
who offers, maybe, it looks like maybe somebody knows the answer.
Well, can I jump in really
Yes,
quick?
Jeremy, please, or no, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think
Maybe I only need to read it here.
it's really about
Could be that.
normal condition after a system in for 7 years. But I have reached out to a gentleman who runs a solar consulting firm, and he's offered to do it. He was director of engineering for Revision back years and years and years ago. He's worked for a number of solar firms for the last few years, and he's now on his own. And he's I was introduced to him through someone else who used to work with Revision that's been a longtime friend, and had these same concerns about buying the system. And he suggested I reached out to him. Very qualified person. He's willing to do it for a reasonable price. I think it makes perfect sense. And I don't envision any issues. Revisions, I had this quick conversation with Revision. They didn't have any issues during their, we have what is currently a bronze maintenance plan with them, I think it's called. And they monitor the system, assess the system, maintain it. And they have never, no issues have come up. So I think it's operating normal for a system that's 7 years old, and that's what we're buying.
Okay,
think
that
that-
sounds fine. Just, what is the reasonable price?
I think he's $125 an hour. And I think he thought he's got to review the data that they have and check out the system. So, and we've got all the reports from Revision over the last year, actually the last
So under
5
10
years.
hours? Is it like, we're talking probably under 10 hours?
I would assume so, absolutely.
Okay.
Bill, could you just direct me to the language of that contingency, the inspection contingency? I'm just scrolling through
It would be in your motion, not in the,
oh, it's not in the, okay, so it's not in the actual agreement as a contingency, okay.
Yeah, I thought it
I
was.
just think that it tends
Yeah.
to muddy the waters when we make our motions contingent on things that are then decided outside of the meeting, because then you're putting somebody, maybe Bill or anybody, in the position of determining whether they move forward or it needs to go back to the
Right.
select board. So I have had
I
negative
mean,
experiences.
normally it's in the language of the agreement with the, whatever the resulting action would be if there's something that's found to be flawed or, in some way damaged. So if it's not,
Barring no, major problems.
Can we put that, I mean, they also say this is being done in May and it's really being done in June. Are there other things, are we able to change the language of the purchase agreement to reflect contingent upon passing a inspection?
Just
I imagine
passing,
it-
it just
yeah.
doesn't seem to be defined
that-
anywhere, or
Right.
it's like when
but-
you buy a house and you make it contingent on inspections, then we all know what happens after that.
As I was about to say, it's much like when purchasing a house, if you've got contingencies, at least you want to be able to have the opportunity to find out what the price of those contingencies are and then potentially renegotiate your price. That might be what needs to be done if there is found to be substantial issues.
Yeah, which is why I guess
But
I
it
would
should
worry
be-
that would tie things up, because who decides what's a major or minor issue that might provoke
well,
price
the
renegotiation?
language in the bill of sale says transferred and delivered to buyer as is, whereas, and with all faults. So we are accepting the current condition. We're not asking for any
Yes,
remediation
that would need to be
of
changed.
anything. So that wouldn't be, the two things are kind of mutually exclusive. If you either have contingencies around the condition or you are accepting it where is as is and with all faults. So it seems to me like it's kind of one or the other.
I think that we have a maintenance plan, and so,
We have had a maintenance plan, and so it's.
yeah, and
they've
that we
stayed
will,
on top
as part of purchasing it, we'll also be extending that maintenance plan. I mean, they've had it has been in their best interest throughout this time period to make sure that the system is as efficient as possible.
So regarding the maintenance plan, they they provided us with a cost estimate to do the maintenance plan. It's preventative and monitoring of the system, similar to what they're doing now, and they offer 3 levels of that. The similar level that we have currently is that it's about $2,000 a year, and it's a 3-year contract that they have to do that maintenance. That's something that needs to be done. That's true. But it continues. I think what you're saying, Allison, they have a system that they've been operating and maintaining all along. It's been in their interest to operate it and maintain it efficiently. And they're just going to continue to do that same maintenance is the plan.
Yeah.
So it seems that it's in our best interest to have an inspection for our information, but I don't know that I would make it part of the agreement, because then we're just, setting up a
I think we're
sort of
we
a
wanna
very
move
an
forward, yeah.
unknown.
Yeah,
What's that?
I feel like it's gonna, there's a bunch of research that's gone into this, and if we're gonna move forward, we should move forward and purchase it. I think I would be fine with doing the inspection, just for our own knowledge. I can only assume that if there were to be found a major discrepancy between what revision says it's doing and what it is doing, I think that revision would be eager to correct that in some way, if for no other reason than to avoid bad press.
Reputation,
I'm
yep.
nervous about putting somebody in the town office in the position of reading this inspection from somebody and then saying, well, it was 74% efficient rather than what they said of 76, or like, does a minor discrepancy trigger the whole thing coming back to the select board? And I just want to make sure that we can move forward.
Yeah, I'd like to, Bill, if you would be willing to just tell us what how you would have us proceed with that. Would you have that language put into the agreement itself, and that with there being any sort of actions to be taken if the inspection was not to our satisfaction? I'm just thinking about what you would have in a real estate transaction.
Yeah, I think that the chicken and egg scenario is really the answer here. You're going to have the inspection done before you sign this thing. A revision has already indicated they're not going to go away if this doesn't happen, in the next 6 days or 7 days or whatever. And I've worked with a revision for, 15 years now, a long time. And they're a good, reliable partner, I've found. And I don't think this is any more complicated than approving the buyout agreement subject to a report, and it will be in the manager's discretion as to whether or not the report's satisfactory. I don't think it's any more complicated than that.
Okay. I'm certainly comfortable with it. I think that we've gotten this far down the road, and it's in our best interest to proceed. So we have a motion. Do we have a motion?
So somebody obviously has some concerns about, maybe it's Bill, about whether the system is as efficient as they say. Whether that's doesn't seem like most people.
Nobody has.
No,
Nobody
I
has
don't have any
concerns.
such knowledge, Allison. I wouldn't know. I just think if you're going to spend $200,000 for something, you take a look at it first.
Believe me, we've been looking very carefully, but sure, if that's what everybody wants to do, that's fine.
Which part?
I agree
I just
with
wanna
Bill
move
that it
forward.
makes
Yeah.
sense to get the report get it reviewed, get the report of what the condition is before spending $200,000.
So we will sign the agreement with the contingency and the inspection will take place and then the transfer of the property.
I don't think we sign the agreement until we get the report.
Well, we can't get the report until we sign the agreement. It goes in that order. We have
You can't get it in a,
no, you
Is
have to have
inspection done
an
first?
agreement. Well, if the agreement is contingent on the inspection, that normally is an agreed upon condition in a contract. It's not something that happens outside of agreed upon terms.
right, but since the current terms are an as-is situation, instead of signing this tonight, we could get a report that says, this is the condition of the solar farm, and it looks good, we move forward. If it says, oh geez, half of these things are cracked, well, then we know that we probably were smart by not signing it and instead getting an inspection done. I mean, otherwise, I've got a farm in Plymouth that I'd love to sell as is, you know?
Well,
That's not the way this works. There's a certain amount of guarantee that's provided by revision.
is.
I would, yeah, and that's what they're all
This is all
going to say.
being like way overcomplicated.
I would like to just
Yeah.
move forward with
Yeah.
approving the agreement as is, and I would
is that a
make a
motion?
motion to that effect.
Without the inspection? Is your motion with or without the inspection?
Without the inspection as
As written.
as presented in our packet. I think a lot of people have done a lot of work. I think that the select board has lots and lots of things to be working on, and so does town staff, and that going around about this any more than what I've already seen committees and outside groups, I just have every confidence that what we're presented is good enough to move forward with, and I'd just like to do that.
Okay.
So it's been moved and seconded with the contingency.
No.
Without.
Without,
No,
No, it
Ken,
has not.
Ken made the motion.
Oh,
and-
you did make,
Yeah.
oh,
And you seconded it.
that's, you should have spoken right up when,
So
Without.
you can move to amend it or and strip out that language.
can I?
Well, yeah, you can do anything we want.
I would move to amend Ken's motion that I seconded, removing the contingency language. You want to second that?
I'm kind of happy with it there.
Oh, well, why did you suggest?
I'm not,
If you want it there, fine. If you want it there, then that's fine with me. You can be the deciding. I'll go with your gut on this. That's
so we'll
fine.
keep the original motion
that's where it stands,
And
without a
it's- and
second for the amendment. yes.
seconded.
Yes.
On an inspection of the solar panels by a qualified professional.
Right.
As included in the motion.
Right. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Yay.
And
Okay.
just to be very clear, everything's fine, which we're very much anticipating it will be. It's not going to come back to the select board. We're just signing and
Right.
moving forward.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's correct.
Great.
Thank
Has to be
you.
a pretty big situation for you to.
Yes, very, very significant.
Okay,
10%.
good work. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, is there a understanding of dollar amount of significant?
Nope.
Should there be?
I think Bill explained that it would be left to the manager's discretion.
Okay. Curtis Island, MOA.
All right, so this is pretty specific to the lighthouse or the caretaker cottage at Curtis Island. So most of you are aware that in the budget that recently passed, we budgeted $50,000 to repaint the cast iron cap on the light tower itself. The roof of the lightkeeper's cottage needs to be replaced, and there's a lot of carpentry work around that. It's not just reshingling the roof. And so the Curtis Island Lighthouse Foundation has generously agreed to raise the funds for that project. And we've been working with Rockport Building Partners. They've helped to patch the roof. They did assessment of it, and they understand the roofing system. They also have a lot of experience working out on islands, so the idea is to work directly with them as the contractor on this project. And the way that this agreement is structured is that the Lighthouse Foundation raises the money, and then they transfer it over to the town, and we pay the contractor.
Excellent. Any questions?
What's the amount that,
150,000.
150,000.
50,000.
Are there any concerns that you have about the 6-month limitation for work getting done that's in here?
I guess this is contingent on receiving the money, and the foundation's in the process of fundraising. So I think that might be, the only factor that could.
Yeah, 'cause what they said that basically within 6 months of the funds being available, they're looking for the project to be done.
Mhm.
Are there any concerns about getting somebody to do the work in 6 months' time, once whatever date that is and the money is available?
We're in a little bit of an awkward position where the contractor is ready now to do the work. The foundation hasn't raised the total amount for it, so there are some funds available, and I believe that they're going to, do as much work as they can do with the funds that are available, and as other funds are being raised.
so is this kind of an exciting jumping off point to be able to say, okay, now we're really, we really need to be able to raise the funds? Or is this going to help you move forward with the fundraising that you need to do? And then everybody feels good about the fact that knowing that the town really can't start and, sign a contract with a contractor until then, is that?
That's correct.
If I could just clarify one thing, that paragraph was really sort of out of respect to the foundation to not hold their funds and not enter into a contract. But the 6 months is just the deadline for entering into the contract after
Okay.
the funds are available. It's not actually doing the work. So it's not that crazy in terms of flexibility. It's just, make a move here. If you've got the funds, you got to enter into a contract, and you would expect, the foundation would expect that to happen. That's why that's there.
Oh, yeah, because I was thinking too, gosh, if depending on when they finish the fundraising, it might make it difficult, but that was a good.
Awkward time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I talked to Casey the other day, and he seems really mobilized and has a crew of people that know how to get material there with minimal impact, and they're raring to go. So
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
you've
really
got a great
lucky.
partner in making the actual work happen. So,
Yes.
including he's going to move the outhouse out there.
Oh, great. We are so lucky to have Casey.
Yeah,
He's
he's
just so knowledgeable about the island and so committed to it. And
Very-
really, this solves all of the concerns that I had heard about, too much access out there or too much disruption.
Right.
And Casey just has a plan for everything. And
Yeah. Going out in the early part of the day and moving things up without a lot of infrastructure. So he's the right partner.
thank you so much
Yeah.
for everything you've done.
So I do have a general question, Mike. Is this the model for the ongoing series of projects necessary at Curtis Island? That is, you will identify a discrete chunk of what needs to be done and do the fundraising for it, and there'll be another memorandum for each section of the larger project?
Sure.
I'm Michael Scaling, Camden resident and president of the Curtis Island Lighthouse Foundation. So I think that's sort of a mutual agreement or with the town. This will certainly gives us some traction and, show that we can raise the money and do the quality of work that needs to be done. So our plans, and we need to have kind of a consensus, would be the roof this year on the light tower, Next year, and again, it's contingent on raising funds, then the whole lower part, all the exterior. So by the end of next year, that exterior is done, and it's done with quality and ready to survive the next 200 years, or as Casey would say. I've been saying 100, and he's saying 200. But
Oh, my.
the light tower, our picture would be, get that roof, and there's some technical work that would have to happen on the light tower, but getting that in year 2. And again, it's contingent on funds and grants and whatever we can do. We just had our board meeting, our annual meeting, just a few minutes ago. And the board likes the agreement, thinks it's a good way to start. And we know we're not going to start with the whole thing. We're going to do it kind of piecemeal, or do pieces as they will. The one concern the board has is that it wants to, Exhibit A, which I believe is the agreement with Casey that would specify what he's doing. We need to see that. But right now, if that were in front of us and we're ready to sign, we would love to sign this. But we do want to see it, and we do have, it's an important part. The board felt to know when we're raising money, donors, and especially big donors, which we're going to be looking for, need some assurance on what's the quality of this. We just want to make sure we're doing it right and we're treating our donors correctly. So as soon as we have that, and I would encourage some deadline. Audra, do you know if you have any deadline on that? Or
I mean, this is the chicken or egg problem that we're getting into with, them kind of drawing up plans.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I felt like the way that this was being solved was by that you identified the contractor that you had been working with and had a lot of faith in, and felt really confident that his goals aligned with yours and all of that. And then that also happened to be somebody that the town has experience working with. And so the worry about whether the money is going to be used for the right purposes, both the concerns that the town would have and the concerns the foundation had were sort of solved in coming to an agreement about the contractor. So it concerns me to hear that the foundation isn't necessarily ready to sign this.
No.
And that you, once again, then don't feel like you could fully start your fundraising or have the fundraising confidence unless you had that total agreement with Casey.
Yeah, maybe I'm sorry, I probably misstated it a little bit. But we're investing in this. We're investing the donors' money. And like anything, we just want to be clear. We need to see that. We can't sign this without seeing what's that agreement. And I'm fully confident the agreement will be fine. And it's not slowing us down. I mean, we've got
I just think
plans
the
this week.
agreement might be a little bit hard because the agreement then is going, some things that are in the agreement are going to depend on timing. And so we're not going to be able to have an agreement with Casey that says when he does all the work, for instance, until we know when we have the money. So I don't want to get us into another chicken or egg thing where you guys feel like you don't have what you need to move forward with fundraising.
Bill has a comment.
If I might help, the point of the Exhibit A is not actually a contract with someone else. It's just going to be a scope of services and describe the materials.
Okay,
which
great.
of course is what the foundation would like to be able to show its donors. It's going to be excellent. It's the lighthouse keeper's building, and the quality of the shingles will be described. It doesn't have to be a very extensive Exhibit A. You just want to know, is it the right material? Is it the right scope of work? So that can get attached to this, and then the Casey contract can happen later.
Okay, that sounds
Okay.
fine. So
And
Casey
that's what we're
Casey
more
can write
concerned
something up.
with, is just,
So we can go ahead
But
and,
you've already, the $150,000 that we think it's going to cost already comes from your discussions with Casey
right,
about what is going to be
mhm,
done. So presumably Casey can just write up as Exhibit A.
mhm,
In
What-
addition to the architectural plans that we both funded.
mhm. Yeah.
Oh,
So
is this
it's
coming
coming
from-
out of it's coming out of the plans that we co-funded
Right.
a year ago, a
Right.
year and a half ago.
So Mike, this sounds like an ideal procedure.
It is.
You guys raise the
Actually, I'm-
funds.
I'm not
help
here to
us-
complain.
Let's plan what to do, right, so, and that's why you anticipate for every subsequent part of the project going forward, that your fundraising will be sufficient
Mhm. Yeah.
to raise the funds.
And we just want to, we just want to make this go really well. I mean, this is, for us, it's a showcase of, we can get it done. And
Yeah.
for the town, we're taking care of this incredible property.
Yeah,
So, all I'm saying is the board, they like the agreement, and Ken, I think if we're talking about the scope and the materials, that's the same thing we're talking about. It's important at this point to see it. That's all.
great.
And as soon as we see that, we'll be signing, and we've got some activities that are kicking up very soon
Thank you, Mike.
to get that.
Oh, maybe.
Is there a reason why Exhibit A is not included in with this?
Again, I mean, we co-funded a really
Right,
significant study that has a lot of this information in there.
but
They've met with I guess, like, it seems very simple, but that's like work that Casey, who hasn't been paid for anything and the money isn't raised to pay them, needs to do.
Mhm.
And so like Bill said, it's simple, but somebody still needs to do it, and it still costs money to do this stuff. So it's just again, chicken or egg.
I think also
Issue.
the foundation has really wanted to have this on the agenda to be able to say that there's this memorandum.
Mhm.
Some of us, I know, felt like, well, if we don't know the details and we don't know what the town is being committed to, we don't want to be voting on anything. And so it's this chicken and egg, like, how can we help them to move forward without accidentally committing the town to,
Yeah.
a $2 million, $3 million project that is, kind of
Right.
vague. Like, I didn't want to sign an agreement that said we're going to partner with the foundation to restore Curtis Island to its, original condition over a period of
Mhm.
5 years or something like that, because, so I
Kathy,
think,
did you have something you wanted to add? Do you want to come up so that we can hear you? So that folks at home in our extensive audience.
Kathy Dupree, Camden resident. The addendum, the appendix was just for the specifications.
Mhm.
So what kind of shingles?
Mhm.
And our board, which includes some very reputable builder and architect, they felt that was necessary for us to go forward
Mhm.
because of spending, as Michael said, that amount of money we've had donated. We need to know that, and Casey could write it up. They were willing, that they know him, they would meet with him, and they could help him write it up, but it just needs to be in black and white and specify, so we know it's going to be quality work.
Right.
We trust Casey.
Right.
But it needs to be,
Specified.
and so is that something you can, I think, if you guys meet with him and do that, that helps. I guess mostly I just want to make sure that we're creating an agreement that doesn't lead to like a huge amount of staff time. I think the ideal partnership here is that we have this partnership with the foundations doing wonderful work, raising money. We have a builder who we have a lot of confidence in, and want that to be able to go forward. But I want to make sure it doesn't take, every other department in town being too involved. And so whatever Audra thinks is the best way to accomplish that.
I know it sounds simple, but it's not simple when we get involved, I guess is the point.
Right, so what would you recommend is there anything we should or
They
shouldn't?
can work directly with Casey to write up Exhibit A.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
So
Thank you all.
although we are not signing this, we do have a motion.
I think, aren't we? Are we not signing it?
No, Audra and
Oh, right,
but
we are
Foundation.
authorizing her.
Well, I'd like to move to approve, then to move it forward, move to approve the memorandum of agreement with the Curtis Island Lighthouse Foundation, who will be paying for the Rockport Building Partners LLC to repair the lightkeeper's house, and the estimated cost is $150,000.
I'll second
Second.
that.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Excellent. Thank you for your dedication and stick-to-itiveness on this. Okay. Final item is the approval of the FY26 snowball budget. And we have Jeff Nathan here to walk us through it. With that great photo.
I know we used it on the the
Yeah,
town
on the
report,
town
but such a
report.
great photo.
It's brilliant.
Jeff Nathan, General Manager, Camden Snowball. Thanks for the opportunity to, I'm going to use this, if that's right, to talk to you about the budget. Some of this information you've seen in different forms, so I'm going to go through it relatively quickly. As always, please stop me should you have questions. I thought it was important to start with just foundationally where we finished up this past year. So 64 days that we were open, and we managed to achieve the highest revenue that we've had in the last 5 years. 105% of plan at $1.3 million. Just one interesting thing to point out for you on this is that our season pass target came in lower, or our results came in lower than the target at 83% of plan. Lots of hypotheses on why that is the case. Probably has as much to do with having a shorter season the prior season, and less confidence in what was going to happen. So just wanted to keep that in mind as we talk about this coming year. On the upside, we were almost 150% of our daily ticket sales. Expense-wise, we came in at 120% of plan, which drives that variance that you see at the bottom of the page, $192,000. 114% of our people expenses, 105% of our snowmaking and lift operations, and about 25% more in maintenance and repair than what we had planned for. If we move on to the next page for this upcoming season, we are anticipating a 5% increase in revenue year over year at $1.359 million, and a 6% increase in expenses, which leads to that variance of $236,000. You'll recall that that's one of the items up for vote for the town, is that $236,000 subsidy. You'll see the season pass revenue increased, being a little bit bullish that based on last season, it will, I guess, reestablish itself. And that we'll see an increase in the revenue there. Daily tickets sales remained relatively flat. And this budget includes an increase in investment in rental equipment. So we had a great year in rentals, equipment sales or rentals last year. I'm anticipating we'll do slightly better than that this year. Expense-wise, our people's expenses are going to be up 8% year over year. I left snowmaking and lift operations relatively flat. A learning for me this past season is while you recall, we lost some of our snowmaking. So I was anticipating our snowmaking line item would have gone down. Interestingly enough, because we opened the triple chair nearly a month earlier than we had previously, the electricity for the triple chair is associated with the snowmaking lift operations all in the same line item. And so we didn't see a reduction there as I anticipated, so left that flat. And then you'll see $80,000 for repair and maintenance. $40,000 of that is for the Tubing Hill lift installation. The next page, just wanted to, I've mentioned some of these things, so I'll just hit on them very, very briefly. You see the increase in people expenses, the Tubing Hill I just mentioned. Historically, we've allocated $12,000 a year towards rental equipment to purchase new rental equipment to maintain our fleet. We did a inventory assessment and needs assessment, as well as a quality assessment on our rental fleet, and much of it needs to be turned over or replaced. And then there are incremental sizes that we need as a result of us running out of rentals this previous year. So as such, I increased that particular line item to $20,000 from $12,000 the previous year. I did, however, take down the rental tuning. So we paid $12,000 for the previous budgets for the tuning of that rental equipment. And we're going to be able to do that for $9,000 this year. So we did offset some of that increase, that $8,000 increase as a result of bringing down the rental tuning by $3,000. The bottom right, as you know, we've talked about removing the ticketing and rental trailer that's there. I budgeted $10,000 for the demolition of that building and $50,000 towards the new building, recognizing there's additional funds that will need to be raised in order to put in that new building. I'm aware of that. I don't have plans today to talk to you about what that raising of the funds will be, but I'm not expecting to build a new building for $50,000 to replace the old one. So if there aren't any questions, I think if we're talking about the snowball budgets, it's important to talk about pricing. So I've revised this slide. So it's something, if you saw it from the previous presentation, I didn't think that was clear. So I revised this slide to make it more clear for you. So the column on the left is our non-resident pricing. The column on the right is that for Camden resident pricing. And if you start in the non-resident, so upper left, you'll see in blue the recommended pricing for 25-26 season pass sales. And you can see a slight increase, $6 increase in the adult season pass, $7 increase in the youth season pass, $10 in senior season pass, and the family increasing by $109. And you can see the percentage increases that I'm recommending. In the past, so I was unable to determine, based on our previous price setting, how we determined what the Camden resident discount would be. So what I did is I took a swing at it and to try to normalize it for this season, hopefully going forward, by making it a 20% reduction in the price across the board. So if you look at the Camden residents at the top, so the non-early bird rates, what's in blue there is based off of a Camden resident paying 80% of what a non-resident would pay. And as you can see what that did for the prices, it dropped the adult ticket by $33, the youth ticket by $3, the senior goes up $34, and the family goes up $105. The early bird rates are what customers pay prior to November 1st. And so in order to, again, try to bring some normalization to the how we process that, what I did is I made that a 15% reduction across the board. That's relatively consistent with what we see in the industry. Is early bird rates are generally speaking 15% off of the non-early bird rate. So that's the math that gets us to what you see on this page for both resident and non-resident pricing. I do think it's important, as we talk about that pricing, to talk about what it will mean in terms of revenue contribution from season passes. So if we go to the next page, I know I mentioned an increase in revenue, hopefully because we have some more confidence in our customers have more confidence in their willingness to buy season passes as a result of our last season's performance of 64 days. But for this exercise, I used last year's season pass sales results for both residents and non-residents. Those are the numbers that you see in that first column where it starts with 102 and ends on the season pass family of 86 for the non-resident sales, and then 94 and 72 respectively for the Camden sales. So those are the actual number of sales for the 24-25 season. And you can see in the next column the corresponding revenue associated with that. If I were to apply the 25-26, so this year's proposal, you'll see the revenue associated with that and the corresponding increase and percent change. So that assumes identical sales to last year and no more season pass sales. I did take in consideration, based on what we did this season, that 76% of our sales would be prior to or be during the early bird rate, so prior to November 1st. So the mix here is based on 76%, 24% to get to those revenue numbers. I'll move on to the next page, which is the recommendations for our day ticket pricing. One of the things we're really pushing to do is a way to both offer a discount to our guests, but at the same time, make sure that we're managing our expenses, is by really encouraging online ticket sales. And so you'll notice in the first blue column that there are some recommended increases in our day tickets over what you see in the white column to the left, which is the 24-25 season prices. But if you go to the second blue column, the online prices, what you'll see, particularly when you look at the full day ticket for adult through youth and the half day ticket for adult through youth, is that the online prices are either identical or lower than what they were for the 24-25 season. So essentially, and this is similar with other ski resorts, there's a premium if you want to purchase your tickets through a person, through a ticket agent, rather than doing it online. Waiting a year was probably a really good thing for us to do in order to implement this, because so many more of our guests will have their RFID cards already from last year. So by going online with that, having that RFID card, going online and purchasing their ticket for that discounted amount, they can get to the Snow Bowl, go right to the chairlift, and never have to come inside. So really a great benefit. We want to encourage their use. Wasn't really interested in raising day ticket prices because I think they're appropriately priced, but had to do it in a way that encouraged online sales in order to really help control our expenses associated with ticket sales. So page 8, and I will be just very brief here, but when I talk about operating in a deficit and not operating at a zero budget, I think it's how I look at that and recognize that is because we really are a municipally owned and community-based recreation area. And I think that is so important. I will go very quickly, but 340 kids, fourth graders, benefited from the fourth grade Learn to Ski program this year. The Ski for Free Wednesday program was a $13,000 benefit to Camden residents. The fact that we have a Camden season pass discounted was a $42,000 benefit. And important not just for Camden residents, but for really the larger community, offering a family season pass rather than offering or asking people to buy individual passes for everyone in their family was a $174,000 benefit to the community. And I would just be remiss if I didn't share that that's really, when we talk about making skiing more accessible, making the Snow Bowl more accessible, Allowing larger families the opportunity to come to the Snow Bowl and at a discounted rate, I think is a pretty amazing benefit that we offer. There are very few in the industry that offer it, and I think it's one of those things that makes us special.
Can I ask a
Of course, Allison.
question real quick? What is good about, do you think that that is a really good thing? The more I was listening to that, I was thinking, so what is that? How is that benefiting the community? Were you encouraging larger families, or what is so good about that?
Yeah, what's so good about it is it would cost the same people $174,000 collectively more in order to ski at the Snow Bowl. So that's the benefit, right?
So-
It doesn't benefit the Snow Bowl in any way other than it likely brings more people to the Snow Bowl that wouldn't otherwise be there. But it's really a community benefit by offering a discounted rate, because we offer a family product.
I would really love to see that next year, this same slide reallocate some of that benefit, or however we want to do it. But overall, the Snow Bowl skiing is a very inaccessible sport because it is incredibly expensive. And so large parts of our community just don't even consider it because it's too expensive to get their kids involved in it. What can we do to make sure that the discounts that we're offering are going to those who need it most? And I know that there are some sort of scholarship programs available through some of our partner organizations, but I'm okay with increasing rates and all these things that we need to do, but I would really love to see us aggressively offer income-based pricing in a similar way that the YMCA does it. So that our goal is to make it not just, because to me, this feels like we're making a very inaccessible sport ever so slightly more accessible to some people, that when really what we want to do is make it, some of those families don't need that discount, at all.
Agreed.
And we're doing it at the expense of people that are never going to be able to even consider a family pass at that price or at that price or at that price. I mean, how many more people are able to ski because of that family discount versus and it doesn't need to be pitting the family discount against something else, but I think we need to make it something that everybody in our community can afford.
Yeah, whether it's through scholarships or an
Yeah.
endowed.
It's I want to make
Something
it
to
right,
think about
whether
going
it's a
forward.
trust fund or something, but I think maybe I heard that they're underusing some scholarship program somewhere, or if that's true, then how can we get the word out about that? Or what options maybe you could tell us right now if you know of any options for somebody that might want to access the Snow Bowl but can't pay any of these prices. Do they have any options?
They have the Wednesday ski for free if they're a Camden resident. We can do a better job. I can do a better job with, making sure people are aware that the scholarship is out there. It was underutilized this past year. And that is a great opportunity for people who need some financial assistance and really want to take advantage of what we have to offer at the Snow Bowl, to allow people to participate in both, with passes, but also with programs. So a lot of our scholarships go for kids in the community to participate in lesson programs or racing programs. But it's also available for passes. So Allison, I think we can do a better job with that. There's no argument for me about the family pass. I think there's a reason why you don't see other mountains offering it. But I think it is when we look at clearly it's a benefit that historically the community at large has taken advantage of. And, the evidence is in if those passes were to be purchased individually, right, we would clearly say that some of them wouldn't have been purchased at all. So I'm not suggesting that's not the case. But if 100% of them were purchased, that's $174,000, right? That's a substantial amount of money when an adult pass costs $500. That's a substantial number of people that are, utilizing that particular pass. So,
Right, I mean, that's
Thank you.
fine. It doesn't need to be taken
Yeah.
away, but what is the scholarship program right now? Who runs it? Is it us? Who qualifies?
Yeah, so we administrate it. We work very closely with the Ragged Mountain Ski Club, who fundraises for that particular program. And they've been very generous at supporting that program for years.
Because right now, just to say, I heard Chris say something about this not being the budget, but I think what we're doing this year, it looks like we're going to basically approving the budget is also approving the fee schedule. Is that accurate? Because we can't approve the budget and then go and say we want a totally different fee schedule. Your budget depends on us having fees be what you say.
Yeah, the budget, the revenues are based on the fees that.
Yeah, you would just be charging with me going back and figuring something else out for how we make more revenue, right?
So I do think it's the appropriate time to talk about some fees, I guess, is sort of my answer to Chris's comment there. Because I feel just very comfortable with the budget that's been presented. If as part of that, and in general, I think I love the way that this is laid out. I love being able to read the slides and kind of understand the implications of the different parts of the budget. I would just like to also make a commitment to kind of aggressively develop and advertise and offer a financial aid program for Camden residents that can demonstrate financial need. And for that to be accomplished in, any combination of ways that makes sense, but.
I'm more than happy to take that on. And the good news is we have time before the ski season. And I'm happy to come back and present to you some options or a recommendation in the future.
I think some of that maybe could be done in the trust fund committee too,
Yeah,
I think this all looks really great.
The fee
Especially where-
structure seems to be in line with your assumptions and your goals. So I think you're on the right track. And I recognize that it's part of your mission to make it a benefit to the community for families and individuals to get outdoors in the wintertime. That is a big mission, and you guys are doing great. And note that you have a couple of low barrier entries to outdoor activity, tubing hill and tobogganing. So I'm glad to see you putting more resources to that. And the Wednesday, my son goes skiing only on Wednesdays. So
Great.
That's working for us.
Awesome.
Well, it may be too that we can, Allison, to your concern, look at some ways to offset equipment costs as well, because that's one of the biggest
Exactly, that's-
barriers to getting in. So if there are
Right.
ways that we can soften that.
We
for
have to do
families,
that
yeah.
because we're doing just a little, but it's not enough. I mean, the Wednesday thing, that happened as a result years ago of it coming up during a select board meeting, and because some of us got upset about it being inaccessible, and it wasn't actually like totally embraced at the time by some people. So this is the time for us to stand up and say, hey, we have to, like, this isn't, accessible enough. So Thanks.
Anything we can do to make it more accessible to people, I'm supportive of.
Yeah.
You won't get resistance from me.
Right.
I'm happy to help figure out how we do that.
I mean, because some of the discounts, this really points out that some of the discounts we offer are really significant. And we all know, senior citizens that actually probably even would be happy to pay their fare share or more, because we're just, I mean, that senior discount is very large. So I think you did the right thing there by,
Although it's doubled, almost doubled their ticket price.
right, but it was really low. So,
Yeah.
Some of
That has
that
to happen.
was based on feedback from some people that were purchasing the senior season pass and were telling me it was too low,
it's just,
quite frankly.
was absurd. So it definitely needs to come up some, maybe even more than you suggested, but.
I have a question, Jeff. It goes back to page 3 of your presentation. And evidently I'm missing a number somewhere. When I add up the revenue plan of 409, 450, and 115, I don't get $1.3 million. I get something a lot less.
Sure.
I get 880,000. So what am I missing? What's the $500,000 difference?
Yeah, so there's lots of other things we get revenue from. I just included the big 3. So our race program, our lesson program, Toboggan Nationals, our merchandise sales. So in the big packet, there's a page that specifically calls out all of the revenue line items.
On page,
Opening up to it.
well, after the black and white snowball picture, I guess, right?
Yeah, so the
Page, ooh,
65 in our packet. but
60, yeah.
It's after the picture of the snowball. Yeah.
revenue is actually 974, 538. Those 3 lines.
Yeah, so there's a detailed snowball revenue page. It's the 3rd page into that particular packet.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was what you intended.
Yes, sir.
Any more points of discussion?
I have a kind of a meta question. Why are we looking at the snowball budget now? All the other budgets were already done. So I guess the question is, what category is the snowball in that we're taking it up in this fashion?
So it's a special revenue fund. So it's,
What
you
I'm
know,
looking
how we
for,
we
yes.
did the wastewater budget at the last meeting. So that's also a special revenue fund.
That's it, just those 2, snowball and?
We have the snowball, the wastewater, opera house,
House.
paid parking,
What was the last one?
paid parking.
Thank you.
Do we approve an Opera House budget separately also?
See, the thing is, 2 of them are so new that we don't have like a practice of them being approved by the select board. But I guess, you know, for the sake of consistency, we should bring those 2 in front of you
I was
as
like,
well.
Oh,
Great.
Yeah, these are really the 2 that,
everybody else has to get tortured, so does Dave Morrison, right?
It does in the regular budget process. It just hasn't been
That's
singled out.
right, yeah.
What was
Yeah.
the concept of not having this as part of the general budget process?
well, it used to be a full-on enterprise fund. So that meant, you know, depreciation of all the equipment was factored in. So year after year, the snowball was carrying a pretty huge loss, like $500,000 loss. So we actually went to something less extreme than a full-on enterprise fund to a special revenue fund. And the idea is that, you know, it sits outside the general fund budget because in the past, the philosophy was always that there was an expectation that the revenue that the snowball brought in from its operations would cover its expenses. And that was pretty strictly adhered to in the town. And I think that there's been sort of a loosening of that philosophy over the years, which led to it being a special revenue fund. And now has sort of led to the idea of if we want to keep prices at a more accessible level on a community-wide basis, not even necessarily just for Camden residents, that there's going to have to be some amount of subsidy from the general fund to support that.
When you say strictly adhered to, I would dispute that from the historical record. If what you meant was that it did always pay for itself. it was set up like that accounting wise, but it
There's
very
been
rare,
many,
very often didn't pay for itself, and triggering special town meetings and
yes.
all the chaos that went along with that. So it's not to say like, oh, the snowball always used to pay for itself and now it doesn't. It's
Yeah, this has been a continuous,
Mhm.
a continuous conundrum, kind of figuring out how do we want the snowball to be run like a business where the purely revenue covers expenses, or do we recognize that it has a broader community benefit, which means that there is some level of taxpayer support for the facility and its operations?
Okay.
And that's further complicated by the way, and this is something that, Jeff and I are talking about, the way that the full-time year-round employees are allocated between the general fund budget and the snowball. It really, it kind of makes it really difficult with the snowball to carry those expenses. Like and we'll talk about this later. We've talked about sort of restructuring how that works.
Their Parks and Rec,
Yeah, so the way that
snowball part of the time.
Yeah, the way that it's done now, so Jeff and Grace, they're the admin staff. It's split 50-50 between Parks and Rec budget and the snowball budget, whereas all of the, the people that are in Rochelle's crew, so all the, sort of boots on the ground people, they're paid 5 months out of the snowball budget and 7 months out of the Parks and Recreation budget. However, since Jeff and Grace and the entire crews really are doing both jobs all year long, there's probably a better way of splitting that up and being a little bit more honest about how that all functions. We're just kind of carrying over what we inherited from the past, but as we sort of look at it a little bit more in the coming years, I think we need to revisit a lot of that.
Particularly as we think about our desire collectively to be a more four-season accessible place at the snowball. As we talk about 4 seasons of healthy outdoor activities and the potential for revenue opportunities outside of the winter season, it may make sense to look at it as one comprehensive snowball Parks and Recreation budget.
And I mean, just to give you an example, like last year we had a really short season where we had to close early because of all the, the bad weather that we had. So when you look at that, a lot of our full-time people were no longer really doing snowball work. They transitioned early to doing Parks and Rec work, but they were still being carried by the snowball budget. So the loss that you see is really kind of artificial, because even though the snowball's technically paying for it, because that's how it's kind of set up in the strict adherence to 7 and 5 and then 6 and 6 for Jeff and Grace.
They've gone on to other work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, there's just a better way of doing it. And we're looking at all of that now because, the best time to change these things is not when you're like, right in the middle of budget season. It's after the budgets have been passed and you're already kind of looking ahead for the next year.
Any more questions? We ready to make a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the FY26 snowball budget.
second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Excellent. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for the presentation and for your efforts.
Move to adjourn.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Yahoo, 8:13.